a formal welcome to everyone who has joined us today on this Instant Win Games webinar, organized by Truly Expo. A very wonderful job they have done. And let me introduce myself. I am Sujit Lahiri. I am the Executive Director and CEO of SkillRock Technologies, and we are one of the main sponsors of this webinar. Um, so I'm going to be the moderator for the next 1 hour for this session on fast-growing world of instant win games and what's next. Okay. So as all of you understand, instant win games, have it's one of the fastest-growing category. It's of the lottery industry, and not only the lottery industry, it has got a lot of synergy with other form of games, and it's now fast emerging as e-instants. Also, to being globalized market, there are a lot of games which are actually being played across the world. They are becoming increasingly popular, and the player habits are changing. So it's more and more globalization is actually being followed world over, and so that's a really very interesting field to be in. And without wasting any further time, I would like to introduce our panelists and who have joined us from across the world. We have Eduardo Godoy, who is the commercial manager of TGS. He joins us from Brazil. He comes with almost 30 years of experience as a management level person. He had been handling commercial and technical areas. So he specializes in security printing, payment systems, biometrics, etc. So that's it's wonderful to have him. Next on the panel is Daniel Thomas. So, who's founder of Imprexis Gaming and iLotto Solutions. So he's a veteran of the gaming sector, and specifically the iGaming. He is based out of Malta, and his recent specialization involves Sharia compliant lottery, and he's trying to do a lot in the Middle Eastern market. It's very interesting to have him on our panel. The next person on the panel is Ashley. Ashley Sandyford Sykes, and he's the founder of Crazy Billions. He comes with decades of experience at multiple levels, and as many of you know, that he has wonderful products under Crazy Billions. He is responsible for various products that are conceptualized right from the game designing and deliveries. So his games are being used by some of the largest lotteries worldwide. He comes from Isle of Man. And then, of course, we have Patrick Bosch as another panelist. He has more than 20 years of experience in big names in the lottery, like Euromillion, and he definitely had been helping run the Luxembourg's national lottery. He also has long experience, about more than 20 years, and he had been running Pan-African lottery called Africa Million as CEO. And so currently he is consultant for Omlot, which is a very specialized boutique consultancy firm based out of Luxembourg. So I welcome all of you, and I thank all of you for sparing your valuable time today. And again, it's a great pleasure to see right now about 121 attendees, and it's joining is increasing. It's good to know that we have such a good popularity. Okay, so thank you for that. So without wasting any further time, I think it'll be good to start on the question and answer session. And we would first be posing some question to the panel. Uh, so the first question is to Daniel. That past 2 to 3 years, there had been, the pandemic had been a game changer, right? So the development of digital games, the offerings, that are being made on the digital space, considering the player behavior, who are spending more and more time with their smartphones, and this is a major change which the world over has accepted. The gaming industry has accepted. Lottery industry is catching up. It's quite a drastic change. So, what do you think is there for the lottery industry to do in this space? Over to you, Daniel.
Well, I think it's certainly just accelerated the transition from more traditional paper to mobile, which is an inevitable situation that's going to happen. I think it's just improved sales, and lottery and simple number games are really a perfect fit for mobile anyway. I think it's a far better way to use your mobile to buy a ticket than to be filling out physical pieces of paper. And of course, the major advantage of this is you're not going to lose your ticket. I'm not sure if our attendees understand the amount of money that's actually lost and unclaimed through paper tickets. It's quite incredible. I mean, it's literally billions of unclaimed prizes. I think the US has yearly maybe 10 million or more of unclaimed prizes. I just dug up some statistics earlier, and Australia has 15 million Aussie dollars outstanding, and including one prize of 4.8 million for a set for life. So, I mean, it's the same situation across the globe. So the more you can play on mobile, the better and safer you are, really. So I just see it as a positive development, which is accelerated and speeded up due to the last few years. However, though, I mean, obviously the competition's not going to sleep. The casino, casual gaming and everything are going to be coming up with a lot of new innovative products. So, yeah, I mean, the lottery sector has to keep evolving in this. And I think a big part of it is the instant games and bringing innovation into this space. The major advantage I think see lottery having is the big jackpots that separates us from the rest of the industry. And I definitely see some multi-million scratch cards arriving on the scene in the coming years to really attract players. That would sort of be my piece of salt on this one. Ashley, I think you're more involved in the actual games themselves. Maybe you've got some more feedback in that one.
Yeah, that's you touched upon some very relevant points. So Ashley, yeah, the question actually extends very naturally to you. So a couple of things. One, definitely, what was pointed out by him, that how much of paper we are saving if we are moving digital, and and also this how probably he pointed out the number part, but it has gone much beyond the number, and smartphones are very well suited for electronic instant win games. So you're not only saving paper, but also you're making it very interesting. What do you, Ashley, to understand? This space.
Yeah, I think there's a few things there, and I'll just try and do them one at a time. But certainly, in terms of platforms being ready for digitization, whilst I think the lotteries potentially in the last few years have got a long way to go, through our casino and sportsbook cousins, a lot of the underlying technology is now a relatively well-trod path. So it's not as if we're going to be true blazers in that regard. There are learnings that we can come across. And I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but just in terms of that bigger picture, what digitization has kind of caused is that for a business looking to go from paper into digital, the world is just massively different at all levels. The whole idea of, I don't know, 24/7. So, you know, enter a digital world, suddenly your business is now the fact that you've got customers and suppliers who are now working 24/7 and accessing your products, something that doesn't happen in the paper world. If we look at the kind of money flows and payments, you know, what is a very people-intensive process? Also, the digital side of it is the complete opposite. It's actually all about process and efficiency, a lot more technology involved and less people. And that has a profound on the business. And it's if you go from one to another to another to another and keep going down that chain. But you know, to speak to Daniel's point, one of the key bits, I think, particularly why we're interested in this seminar, is what does that really mean for product? What does the digital really add to a product? And I love going back to the start on all of these things, as I've already done. You know, at the end of the day, lottery is a very, very simple product, and it's built as a casual purchase. It's the entertainment factor is around the promise rather than the actual point of purchase. You know, I think if we're a lottery purchase, driving entertainment all the way up that draw, trying to answer that what question, and that's kind of what the enjoyment factor is. When we think on so many other gambling spheres, entertainment is a little bit more like it's a movie purchase. You know, it's about the actual experience that you're having at the time. And I think one of the things that both myself and Daniel will keep coming back to is this idea that the product isn't just a gambling product, it's actually what people get out of it changes. And we're certainly going to see, particularly the sector, a whole host of learnings that go from making ad hoc purchases of a easy to find product to one that actually is deriving entertainment and is actually being bought for its own entertainment at the point of purchase, which is really what digital is. I think, and also they mentioned, you know, about the people playing and what that meant in their environment. I try and avoid in these discussions talking about lottery players moving to digital. Clearly that does happen, but the two actions are very different, done for very different reasons, different time, place, etc. And I think certainly for any kind of current bricks and mortar lottery business, that customer base is still there, still with the reason to play, still with the same actions they want. But the same customers and new customers have got a whole set of new channels to address. And I think certainly in the Q&A later, we'll talk a little bit about those channels and what that means. And I'm taking everybody's time. So I ought to give Daniel's kind of previous comment a little bit more discussion in terms of what does that mean from a kind of a product and how it's changing and what it's offering, etc. Yes, we can start going digital with huge jackpot values and different products than you can currently get online. No self-respecting casino or sports book is offering the right kind of progressive jackpot values that Daniel was talking about previously. And by the same token, we as lottery suppliers haven't been providing that immersive experience to our players in the same way that our casino cousins have been doing. So there's a real kind of crossover and learning from both. And it would be wrong to say a player is going to go on a particular journey, but at the end of the day, there are so many lottery players out there. There's something to fit everybody. So I hope that in part answered the question, and in part left it a little bit open for more Q&A.
Exactly. So I think you know, it's very wonderful to know that electronic instant win games have brought the entertainment back in the hands of the player, right? So that's a good move. So Daniel would like to add something to you know, as Ashley had been pointing out, you know, you can actually judge what is the situation on the ground.
Well, I think he covered it beautifully, really. I mean, it's finding the differentiation between instant lottery games and a lot of other casino games. The difference is, one, we're chasing the dream and the big prize against that something is more player engagement, more to do with people who are addicted to games, which is more the casino type of things, where you're we do try to be slightly less kinder in the lottery space as regarding that we're trying to fulfill people's dreams and not suck every penny out of them, which is more the casino type of game. So yeah, that's my last piece on that one.
If I can, Silvia, I think Daniel really hits on an important point there about responsible gambling. And actually, a typical one-to-one draw for a relatively low-value ticket cost, and in a non-entertaining way, has relatively low spend for a customer. And whilst I'm not saying that our lottery operators don't pay good heedance to responsible gambling, because they clearly do, but the product itself lends itself to being something that's a lot more responsible than our casino cousins. And as we move to producing instant games with instant gratification, one of the challenges that we're all going to face is that our responsible gambling challenges are going to grow and grow as well.
Absolutely. We need a slight differentiation there.
My next question is to Eduardo. We all are, I mean, it's lovely to see, how the instant game industry, especially the electronic instant games, are doing in the, attracting the new players. But at the same time, in the brick and mortar sense, the innate value of a traditional instant win game as scratch card, that has a lot of market, and that market also has got invigorated by electronic instant win games, because there's a lot of learning from instant win games, e-instants being back into the traditional at the back end, right? People don't really know what kind of investments that you make into, the technology infrastructure, the technology that goes into printing of them, how they are like currency note printing. Okay, so can you just throw some light that, for everybody's understanding, that people may otherwise think that scratch cards are very low tech, right? Which is not, right? So, Eduardo, over to you.
So we know that there are a charm with physical instant games, no? And I believe that there are something that, for example, the touch of paper, of smell, of the touch, the smell, the different kind of inks is different experience for the gamblers, no? And like I told you, making security documents, or whatever the format, color, substracts, type of this distributions in many other variables is in the DNA of the Thomas Gregg. Our focus is the quality, integrity, and security of all process, products, and services. Having a security document with several anti-forgery security items and produce a single integrated process is very, very critical. Not easy. You put inside the DV, the data variable, prices, with ink covering at the same time, it's very, very, very difficult, not so easy. And the process, for example, we asked me about the process. Process begins with a control of quality of the raw materials meaning paper and ink security inks. The printing process contains water-soluble varnish, fixative and protective varnish with or without coloring, UV printers, microletters, technical errors, and so many other items that guarantee complete authenticity. Sometimes more than 10 inks in print stations to produce this, for example, this card, for example. Like I told you, we produce several anti-forgery security items in a single end-to-end process with code scratch-off, allowing total traceability from receipt to the end encrypted file to the end user. But the big challenge are the deadline of clients. The market is very fast. From creation until the end user, this time is short. Sometimes we spend a lot of time creating, and a short time to produce this, to deliver this games. Very difficult, not easy. And we know that very important. A big variety, very important the varieties of the different games. Different games it's a good stretch of sales. But the setup of machines of each game each model is very complex. The print machine is a big machine. Sometimes you are more than one machine, and talking about a machine is over 10 meters long. Is very good, but I think that we are ready to do this, and very good, and that's it.
Thanks a lot, Eduardo. So, there's a cutting edge technology that is used right from IT to printing technology to the consumables, right from paper to ink to everything is top notch, top quality. And you work under tremendous amount of pressure because, people take a lot of time to do the game design, but they expect everything yesterday when it comes to printing. Okay.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I fully understand your challenges. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So my next question goes to Patrick. So Patrick, we have this instant fast-growing category of instant games, and at the same time, the physical scratch cards are also, very popular. So, the new age players may be, kind of playing on the digital offering, the e-instants, but traditionally, the long tradition of physical scratch cards that are also happening. So, what do you think would be the omni-channel strategy for the operator, right? What's your take about omni-channel being seen within the ambit of omni-channel?
Yeah. Thanks for your question, Sujit. Omnichannel, well, it's a long history already. We have been talking about it since, I would say, as long as I'm in the industry, roughly. And it's a concern at the end. It's a challenge and an opportunity, because wherever we are selling and whatever we are selling, we are addressing a player base and a player who can use different conveniences to actually come to the products which we may be offering. Ashley rightly said at the beginning, we have different play types, play moods perhaps, because sometimes someone is playing digital, he's playing perhaps in the evening, whereas the paper document will be played in the daytime. But at the end, it corresponds sometimes to, you have one player who may be fully on one side of the spectrum, really playing on the paper side alone. Let's say they call it the traditional player, and we may have the other one on the other extreme, which may be more the digital player. But there is a lot of variety in between, diversity, and that depends not only on the player, but depends on his current situation, his current set of mind. And we have to be there where the player currently wants to be. So that's the first point. The second point is I think the instance help into the gamification process, because instance, after all, we are selling entertainment. And Daniel mentioned that as well. We are in a responsible gaming space. We are not casinos. We are not trying to get the last cent. I think that was the word that Daniel used, out of the pockets of the players. We're selling really entertainment. So he buys time for amusement at the end. And if there's a winning, it's fine. Good causes are served as well. So we are all playing our role here. And the gamification here can be enhanced with the e-instance. And it can be the same environment, the same look and feel, but it can be ported to another dimension in the instance part. And there you can offer a lot of variety. So from my point of view, omni-channel approach gives us opportunities to be there where the player currently is and to offer more gamification and more entertainment to the player for the same price at the end.
Thanks a lot. So actually, as a designer of games and definitely as a design house of games, how do you see omni-channel operating for you? I mean, of course, you focus more on the electronic instant win games, but
Yeah, sure,
what can you
sure.
advise on?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a couple of things there. Really, there's the variety of instant win, and I think I'll try and morph this question into it. But from a pure omni-channel basis, we're really talking about delivery mechanisms to our customers. And the first thing that really comes to me is more about the opportunities that gives. I talk about a bricks and mortar lottery business producing lottery tickets, and channels opening up to that operator is both physically going digital, but also the different types of products that then can be on offer. So the opportunity is about increasing the types and the scale of products, as we've already mentioned from Patrick there. That then opens up other players through convenience of playing on the phone while you're at the bus stop in your own environment instead of having to go and buy and purchase. Time of day, playing in the evenings, whereas previously you might need to find a retail vendor, etc. So a lot of that omni-channel approach is actually about opening up opportunities that didn't exist before. And certainly to a lottery business, I think the key thing that omni-channel brings is an ability to extend their business in some ways. Now that then plays into the second point of Patrick's there from a responsible gambling perspective, is that we are then effectively offering slightly different products and more of it, and it starts to create a few issues potentially with some of our customers. And that's where perhaps I ought to have a little bit of discussion about the types of instant win. I think I've already mentioned earlier, we have a once a week lottery ticket purchase, which of course can be digitized, and it's still a once a week lottery purchase on a draw that happens once a week. Our typical match 3 scratch card basis, a very casual, relatively small one-off purchase, maybe producing a couple at a time. We see that in the retail sector. We'll also see that digitally online. More than it's what we would think of instant games, and I think is probably for most of the people dialed in today, when they're thinking instant games, they're actually thinking things that maybe have a little bit more entertainment factor than just a simple match 3 card. Maybe they're thinking about our multi-game cards or crossword puzzles or color match, etc. A number of different mechanisms, not necessarily in everybody's head thinking gaming per se, and we're using things coming over from a mobile product sense, etc. But let's make that continuity go all the way. At the end of the day, a slot machine is an instant win gambling product. We just consider that so far at the end of the spectrum that it doesn't come under our category of instant win games. I hate to tell you, it does. And so I think the more we can start to think that we go from a casual one purchase once a week to a lottery, to a slot machine somewhere on the other side where we may have 200 spins in a session, what is it we're talking about? And I will particularly during this session talk a little bit about more those softer casual games. There's still instant win. You can still play, you can still play again. But when we're talking to lottery customers and what that means, we're probably thinking a longer game. So whilst they're instant win, we might be looking for games that maybe take 30 seconds or a minute or even 2 minutes to play the individual games, trying to really deliver some entertainment value to a player at any time of the day. Go and purchase it digitally online, but I'm not going to try and ask you to spend money every 3 seconds as would be required elsewhere. I've gone off topic a little bit there, Sujit. Sorry about that. But I think getting the different types of games is probably quite key from the omni-channel. Obviously we have sportsbook and casino operators trying to drive other types of games and trying to derive value from a lottery sector. I think as the pure lottery operators looking to move into digital, we need to be aware that they're doing that and potentially address it in a slightly different way. Otherwise, everybody becomes a gambling operator. And I don't think that's necessarily good for our customers.
Great. So if we draw a chart, so there's a omni-channel layer, there is a unique layer for each of the channels, and it's purely a product differentiation that actually needs to be seen across the entire spectrum. So the spectrum is full of different colors and overlap of colors.
I do think, Sujit, that there's a lot of experience currently there. There's a lot of innovation in the market already. One of the opportunities that sits there for our bricks and mortar lottery in terms of digitization is an ability, if we're going to extend our products, we actually already have the customers. We're really just giving them a slightly different offering. And that's where I do see a lot of innovation on the lottery side, is actually how do you take that second chance offer off the scratch card or a lottery ticket and take it online. And, it's from a low value win that maybe is equivalent of your lottery ticket or your instant win ticket. We're actually giving them another go. The majority of our players, I've made that up, a large number of our players, when they get these low value wins in a land-based environment, they're not immediately going back to the retail kiosk and asking for a repeat bet. They're taking that ticket or that card, etc., putting it in the glove compartment of the car, and next time they go to the retail vet, I'll pick those out and I'll go and use them again. Suddenly going digital, we have a really great way to service our customer, and that innovation happens at the minute. And I do think omni-channel, we can really leverage that. But to say what Patrick said earlier, as soon as we're bringing land-based and digital together in one seamless environment, it just gets so much more complex. It really does.
Thanks. So my next question is to Eduardo. We heard the view of omni-channel. So what exactly it means that there is a much larger scope to coexist, much larger scope to actually kind of leverage from each other, and therefore physical scratch cards definitely are going to be there always. Okay, and so what's your take on this, and and how do you see omni-channel from that perspective?
Yes, and I believe that the possibility of delivering both electronic digital instant lotteries and physical ones is an excellent opportunity for the brands to serve all the diverse and different audience or different ages. I used to say all the time, example of my father, for example. They are 80 years old and have a smartphone a lot to use, but I believe that you don't use instant electronic lotteries. No way, but use it in paper. So I believe that a good opportunity for the brands to serve all. You need to do all the products. Of course, keeping up in technology development. Thomas Geiger has developers, to create electronic instant game lotteries along the physical ones, which bring an even great experience to the gamblers. For example, who buy scrapping of the physical one, we also have access through the QR code, for example, that when you read, you direct him to the new prize opportunity in his cellular phone, for example. It's a kind of example. I think that's it.
Thanks. So omnichannel is going to stay. There are some people who will continue to be comfortable. Now, talking about the omnichannel, you know, what normally comes to our mind that the technology is moving so fast that, you know, it's creating a blurred space, it's creating overlaps, it's creating or rather leveraging both of the, you know, both of the, I would say, unique channels. And definitely one very important factor, what you mentioned, is the ease of play, ease of purchase, ease of, you know, I mean, the ease of purchase, ease of play is definitely the physical channel offers, but the stickiness, the, you know, immersiveness and other things are offered by digital space. So how do we actually create a hybrid situation? So thanks to our SkillRock team, you know, we have developed a product which is a very unique concept. And you know, I would like to play a very small 2-minute video. Backend team, you know, Puneet, can you run the video, please?
Sorry, for me? No, yes, okay.
So this is about a person, you know, purchasing it, a voucher.
Yeah.
Going to the convenience of office, playing at will, playing anywhere.
Very interesting.
Any kind of game can be played at. It's not restricted to instant win games, but then instant win games provide a lot of gratification, satisfaction. And once you win, you can withdraw.
Great.
Thanks, Sunny. So, Eduardo, my next question is about you know, the customization and localization, providing a local flavor. Right? So, I mean, you have been able to provide a lot of local elements to the scratch card lotteries. So, you know, can you share some experience? You know, at the same time, you know, this has to be popular in a market, right? The volume has to be there. And so how do you ensure that the minimum volumes are met by having a local game? Over to you, Eduardo.
Yeah. Sergio, like a print solution. Maybe I'm not sure about my point of view, but I think that it can help something. made my colleagues like Ash or Daniel have so much more experience than me. Yeah, but I talking with some clients. I know that there are a lot of research around this. I don't know. I don't have a doubt that in a customization or localization has a huge role in the popular or instant games. I remember that I watched at YouTube. I love YouTube, yeah? And one webinar in 2022 from Expert Tully Expert, sorry, that Milda at Superlot Games told something about this. In her example, she said that instant games with a relation with basketball in Lithuania work very good. But in the country, the other countries are not so good. I believe that in Brazil has a similar situation with soccer. I think that the regional and the popular games, soccer in Brazil, for example, it's a good deal.
So, of course, the challenge that you face in the physical scratch card is that there has to be a minimum volume, right? Otherwise, you can't spend. But Ashley, you must be facing the similar challenge, but at the same time, for you, the volume can be leveraged across jurisdictions, across countries, because that's not something you are producing. In terms of printing. So, Ashley, what's your view in terms of localization? How important it is?
Yeah, exactly. So online isn't new, and developing of games isn't new. And a lot of what we do here in the gambling sector, we can take exactly from gaming, and online so much easier. And from a volumes perspective, as you say, we don't have the same limitations that we do in an offline world. The same product can support multiple different localizations. And when we talk localization, we're principally talking around languages and formats. Being able to offer the same game in several different dialects, for instance. And there's certain things that we can do very cheaply and easily. Literally text conversion. You can hold several different versions at the same time, costs next to nothing to make it happen. Next level of kind of localization might involve various bit of graphical content that might be slightly different. I look at the Asian market and particularly how different dragons mean different things in different areas. Those kind of visual references then form some form of localization. But at that point, we're really talking about very heavy localization, and that's a little bit more around the product itself. So for instance, if we're in Brazil, we're building pull tabs. If we're in the UK, we're building kind of scratch offs. The actual core instant is different in different markets. And yes, there's a volume-based argument there. And certainly if I start offering pull tabs in absolutely every market, they're not going to do as well as they do in Brazil. But by the same token, it's digital, and I don't have a wasted print run. I just have some technology. So the short answer, I hope that helps. I'm kind of saying we've got it easy.
Right. You talked about language, you talked about, the regional preferences, but there's a very important element, which is could be many a times the religious or cultural sensitivity, right? So Daniel is the one, who is actually planning to launch in a big way lotteries across the Middle East. It's a very interesting market. And so, Daniel, what do you think, as per Sharia law, you should consider, and how do you navigate the space? You need to be on the right side of the law, for this, and just give us some insight.
Well, I mean, the Middle East is certainly an interesting market, and the current boom is seemingly being tolerated as long as the providers stick to certain Sharia compliant rules and that any draws are regularly audited by local authorities. I do believe that the sector will become regulated in the next few years with more providers moving into this space. To get a general idea of how you become Sharia compliant or fatwa approved, is basically you're selling a product or a collectible, and then you get a free ticket for each product that you purchase. The general idea, it's basically like if you go into a supermarket and then they give you a free raffle ticket at checkout. It's based along those principles. Current providers are offering anything between a pencil to a bottle of water to a green certificate that pledges donations to environmental causes. I believe there's a big role for physical scratch cards in this sector. Advertising opportunities are limited because you would in general require approval from each individual emirate if we're talking about the UAE. You would just, clearly there are some design adjustments that would be needed to make these sort of scratch cards compliant. But I believe it would be a good revenue driver and great for player acquisition as well to bring people online. Examples for that would be something like selling collectible cards in whatever form, and then maybe on the reverse side or at the bottom of those, you would offer a free raffle, a free scratch. That's how I see it. I think there's going to be, maybe we can have a conversation later about some designs and how we can enter that market. At the moment, there's quite a few providers out there. The first on the market, I believe, was a live draw called Mazuz, shortly followed by Emirates Draw. Operating out of Oman is O'Millionaire. Then there are various raffle providers, one called Ideals.com with a Z. They appear to be doing very well. And in most airports also have some sort of approved raffle going on to win a car, win a house, etc., etc. Personally, I know about 4 or 5 other new companies that are looking to enter this market. So let's see how it evolves. You know, it could get quite busy quite quickly, and then competition often drives people to be more daring as it was, and then we might see some clampdowns in moving forward. It's a very interesting one, and I wouldn't say that that it is particularly stable market. Things could change quite rapidly over there regarding regulation. Maybe anyone's got some questions on this at all.
Thanks. So my next question is to Patrick. You have such a long experience of multi-jurisdictional lotteries like EuroMillions, and they're extremely popular, extremely globalized. I mean, right from Powerballs to Mega Millions to everything. Now, definitely, you know, when say for a moment, instant win games are being talked about. So how do you actually make things work on a multi-jurisdictional environment? And you know, what are the learnings that from the multi-jurisdictional lottery that we can actually imply into this instant win game space? Over to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Sujit. Well, big jackpot games or multi-jurisdictional jackpot games have been drivers and defining the industry in the last decades. Talking about Powerball in the US, obviously, which has been, or Mega Millions, which have been predecessor. It's single country, single currency, so it's more actually territories which are managed there. I think the real first game which has been defining here and which has been quite renowned is EuroMillions, obviously. Eurojackpot also following suit, I would say. But the differentiator mainly between those in those games is actually that, well, you pool together a big market so that you can address your players with prices that you cannot offer in different setup. So this is the main differentiator. There have been initiatives to actually diversify such approaches to other games. Would it be in the sports betting industry? Would it be in the would it be also in instant tickets? Until now, they have not gotten enough traction. There are different problems with regard to that. Some of those problems are related to well, to how do you actually distribute it? Because when you have scratch games, or well, you have the winner somewhere in the game, and so you will distribute it somewhere to one of those jurisdictions. It's not as much the luck of the draw as it may be for your Millions game. And you have also on the other side, well, you don't pool as much big winners on a ticket, on an instant ticket. Instant tickets usually play in a different category. Now, there have been initiatives to add, and I've helped to promote and develop some of them myself, products where you actually have some jackpots on it, but they're more casual jackpots, let's say, smaller jackpots which entertain, which have some other mechanics actually attached to it, sometimes TV shows, etc. So there are ways to actually bring the instant game away from the just a few minutes entertainment, but to actually have this rolling and ongoing mechanism. But it has to be analyzed market by market, and it's not as much portable from the multi-jurisdictional approach as at least experience until now has shown.
One more question I would like to add right now, because Ashley as well as Daniel pointed out that there's a huge benefit that is seen running some progressive jackpots, so those progressive jackpots, they be multi-jurisdictional? Can they be plugged with? I mean, they can. Can that be a kind of a catalyst onto instant win games?
Do you want to take that, Daniel?
I'm passing that over to you, I think.
I think the answer is yes there then. Sujit, certainly. Fundamentally from a multi-jurisdictional standpoint, got to bear in mind that the biggest issues in being multi-jurisdictional are actually largely around kind of things like payments, player identification, and regulatory laws. While Patrick kind of clearly hit on some very good examples there, and what made the examples of Euro Millions, Eurojackpot, etc. work, it was the fact that we could combine themselves under a common regulatory framework. Payments actually became not so much of an issue, blah, 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 blah. If we start looking at digital and digitization, we can start going a lot further and wider. The issues around payments is less around physical stuff. You're paying digitally anyway, so the payments are a lot easier. Regulatory clearly is very much an operating issue, and actually being able to combine the environments there works. But you're asking about product. So you put those things aside. Yes, progressive jackpots to large values across multiple jurisdictions will provide a great bind for players, particularly players who are lottery and aspiring for jackpots at the same time. But we're going to hit this, I'm sure, and game design stuff a little bit later on, but there's then a whole host of other things that will combine across jurisdictions. If I was just look at, common culture, and I was to say, who wants to be a millionaire? Deal or no deal? Some of these, or Lingo is another great example. Brands that kind of cross multiple jurisdictions as games also fit exceptionally well into that instant win market. And, that kind of brand loyalty does mean that we're able to offer instant win multi-jurisdictionally from a product sense relatively quite easily. The harder bit is then actually getting ourselves through that regulatory and payments hurdles as well, which is going to be delivered by the operator, who's trying to drive what customers. I hope that helps. Not too much on progressives, but there you go.
Perfect. So, now, of course, there are some questions which are being raised from the attendees, so we have to address them, very quickly. So we have very little time before that. I'll come back to those questions. But one very important question, which definitely is to Daniel first, is definitely the security. Had been a lot of incidences that in terms of hacking, compromise, uh, you know. So there's a definite threat that we always constantly face. So how can players as well be made comfortable that there's a fairness, there's instant win games are fair. How do you maintain very high standards? So can you just throw some light on this, Daniel?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't pretend to be an expert in the field of hacking. I mean, I see. I mean, we have experienced a lot more. If you're looking at, there's two areas we're talking about here. One is the player data protection and avoiding yourself being hacked in any shape or form, and then there's the players' trust in RNGs themselves, the actual results. Now we've had extensive DDoS attacks recently coming all over the place at us. So we've been using CloudFront as the basic DDoS protection, and then now due to the increasing events, we've been adding AWS Shield and AWS WAF to it as well. So that's web application firewalls, and AWS Shield provides additional protection for the DDoS attack. Regarding the players' trust in instant game results, it's an interesting one. I mean, there's a lot of people, I presume, here in the panel who know more about certified RNGs and how safe they are or not, and how they can be manipulated. There was a very famous event in the US where the guy who actually built the RNG was manipulating it, and he basically ran out of friends to give $1 million to, which is an interesting one, and eventually got caught. I mean, ourselves at iLotto, we recently won a grant with Chainlink Labs. They're a leading provider of secure and reliable Web3 services, to develop a VRF, which stands for Verifiable Random Function, which is a provably fair and verifiable random number generator. So it uses both smart contracts and traditional systems to secure computation events that rely on randomness. You saw I had to read that sentence. So yeah, and these are stored then in global ledger that is accessible by anyone in the world. So I think this is a way forward to build trust. If you can, in retrospect, prove that the randomness actually happened with those numbers. I mean, this is it's a big thing in Africa. There is a lot of cheating going on, and a lot of the players do not trust the actual RNG and the results that they're getting. So any modern technology, Web3, we can use to assure the players of the randomness and the fairness of the results, I think the better. So yeah, we hope to be launching that product in the next month or two. Look forward to showing it to people.
Certainly. So we are a little running out of time, but then I'll just still pose this question to Patrick. Definitely projecting the fairness of the game, definitely to both the players as well as to the regulators. What kind of transparency do you think can be brought in? So can you just throw a light, because EuroMillion, Eurojackpot, everybody had been working on transparency to a very high degree, showing their randomness. So what exactly can be done in the instant space as well? Patrick?
Yeah. I'm thinking, actually, well, transparency, and I had the opportunity to discuss it with you in the past already. So you know that this is a key subject for me, because trust. I think well, we sell entertainment, but the first single thing we sell is trust. because if trust is gone, well, Daniel, you mentioned this guy who mingled with the ING, and there are plenty of stories to tell in the lottery industry. Fortunately, they're pretty much under control, but that's what undermines trust. In the instant part, well, the more randomness, I personally believe the e-instant part gives more trust, perhaps, in the point of view that everything can be truly random. It is not dependent on a retailer, etc. And it's easy to demonstrate. In the point of sales, well, you have, as Eduardo said, you have all these elements which make the physical ticket and which makes not only the flavor and the entertainment, but also the security out of it. I think the opportunity here is perhaps to be more transparent, not necessarily with the ING behind it, but we have all techniques which we use to design our instant games, but more to ensure also for traceability, testing, etc., that this is communicated or made perhaps available. There are plenty of laboratories around the globe who, and some of them were highly specialized, who can ensure that trust is guaranteed, that the tickets are actually proof safe, well, tamper safe as much as possible. And these are areas which I suggest we may want to do more on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm stealing just 1 minute of everyone's time and posing a quick question to Eduardo, because on the physical scratch card space, managing the brand credibility of your customer is in your hands. So how exactly do you manage what production control you tend to do? This is the one question that I'd like to take over. Please, over to you, Eduardo.
Yes, let's go. Like Daniel told you and everybody knows, man. And one of the main success factors in the instant games is the credibility of the brand. With no credibility, it's very difficult for everybody. When we are producing the instant games, for example, you cannot miss any cards, any instant games. Impossible. And if you don't have control, it doesn't matter if this card is production disposal or not. You need to know where this card is. For example, if you don't have control, we are getting the brand of our clients in risk, and our brand too. And then the clients know about this. They need trust with us. The only security printer has this structure. We have more than 300 cameras in the plant, for example, access control of more than 800 employees, 24 hours a day. The claimer need to trust the game, and then our clients need trust in us. That's it.
Okay. So sorry, we've run out of time. So, we definitely have to take up the questions which are already posed. So, this question is from Sunil Vidate, and he's asking why casinos and lottery organizers do not prioritize the insurance and pay out the jackpot prize. So yes, so I pose this thing to Patrick. What do you think should be the insurance role in ensuring the jackpot of the first prize of instant win game as well?
Okay. Well, instant win games and insurance. Usually, my take on it, but you don't necessarily need on instant win games insurance, at least not in physical. Your main risk is not to sell out the batch, and so you may have to sort the big winning prizes before you actually have to take back your batch because it wasn't successful. I don't think that insurance will make a differentiator here. Insurance may be a differentiator on the digital space. If you want to have higher jackpots with low frequency, and you want to attract someone with those higher jackpots and low frequency, that's perhaps an opportunity, which I would see.
I agree with that. Yes.
Next question is from Chi Wai Hui, and his question is, how do you protect the lottery mobile app? There are lots of hacking. Daniel, would you like to answer this?
Well, I'm getting all of the hacking questions here. Look, I am not an expert in this field. If your database is protected correctly, which I would have to ask my developers exactly what's in place there, then it's very difficult to manipulate anything. You have cutoff times for draws. You can't add, unless they can actually inject into your database some changes. I don't think people need to be too worried about that. That's with the experience I have with our systems. Maybe someone else here is better placed to answer that sort of question.
Let me try and help out a little bit with a little bit of a view. So, you know, hacking anywhere in a digital world is clearly a very important factor. We, as the only real products which you can go out and buy, which could have a negative value, i.e., somebody actually earns more than they pay you for it, puts it in a very different situation. The one thing that the gambling industry as a whole has is very heavy regulation, and the regulatory requirements to protect from hacking and cybersecurity, etc., are far greater on a gambling firm than they are on your typical e-commerce website. You know, whether you're dealing in banking, insurance, or gambling, there's a lot of extra requirements. Those requirements are one thing. Obviously, everybody wants to go and above board to do whatever they are. So, in order to help your questioner there, there's then a lot of other very standard ways of working within the gaming industry about how we authenticate players, protect our databases, manage transactions, etc. And each individual company on its own right doesn't have to reinvent the wheel in that regard. We're actually a very safe situation from hacking. I think Daniel just mentioned earlier a lot of things that he was currently doing to avoid DDoS attacks, etc. You know, he will have learned a lot of that from actually conversing with his compatriots also in the industry, and standard techniques have been experienced before. So, yeah, to answer your question, we learn from each other. We're heavily regulated, and it's a very well-trodden path.
And I think everyone here, all their systems, we're all regularly getting audited and checking all security flaws. Any updates to any product, everyone is checking it. So, you know, we can't really afford to be hacked. Most of us. It's back to the trust factor even with RNGs and whatever. Eduardo was saying, once you've been exposed, it's difficult to get your trust back. So it's imperative for everyone in this space.
Well, I may add a few bits perhaps to it. I know we are running over time, but I'm actually, well, sometimes the debate actually, or the party starts when everything has ended. But we are active as well in the information security sector and outside of the gaming industry as well. So we have a footprint in that area as well. So I can benchmark the lottery industry with regard to other industries which we have been serving as well. And so 2 comments with regard to what has been said before. Definitely, the lottery industry is one of the most regulated, the most controlled, the most tested. And sometimes when I look only at testing, end user testing or security testing, penetration testing, load testings, etc., automated tests, etc., I can't compare to near even perhaps sometimes not a bank. So we are really above and behind in the industry, Hacking, I personally have not a lot of heard of. Sometimes a bit of a bug, a glitch or something. Hacking, no. And then the second point, yes, definitely the database. As long as we control the database, if this is a secure shell around it, as much as possible, obviously, with the encryption, access controls, and whatever we may have in place, then we actually in the safe part. The rest is the presentation layer. That's a different story. So I feel more,
Patrick.
safe.
But Patrick, you brought a very pertinent thing to the table that you know, it's if you look at the lottery industry, it has got WLA published security control standards, which are a layer above ISO 27001. So it's very, very similar to banking industry, or maybe more. Okay, and therefore definitely we don't really come across situations in proper lotteries, you know, which are again not fly by night lottery operator in some Timbuktu, but you know a well licensed lottery operator, because the licensing process also involves a very in-depth assessment of you know, the security control standards. So the regulator would like to, you know, protect their image, their trust, their everything. So it's not the regular operators who are hacked, but yes, certain licenses which are, you know, probably assigned by not so knowledgeable regulator or somebody, you know, not complying to the industry, definitely they can be hacked. So yes, that's what it's about. People, process, and technology, all the three elements working together. One question that we have, you know, is, you know, from Martin Q. Ink is big. Does anyone trust physical scratch cards from China? Again, a very, very similar question. So I'll pose it back to Eduardo. That is it location of printing very important, or is it the process important? Is it the technology important? To you, Eduardo.
Let me try to I don't understand the question, please.
The question is, they say ink is a big thing. I mean, but does anyone trust physical scratch cards from China? I mean, of course, I don't want to name a country by specific, but this question has come. So I am asking you, is the country very important, or is the process very important, or is the technology very important? How do we ensure that, you know, there is a trust factor in the physical scratch cards?
I think that's it's all of this, and I think that's the ink is very important. The structure is very important. I think that there are all the situations very important for physical cards. That's it. I think so.
If I can, Sergio, I have I suppose, an argumentative view on some of these. So trust and security. Clearly, we're talking about to people and customers. I'd argue there's a very big difference here between what I would refer to a private one-off customer going to make a purchase, who by and large, at the point of purchase, doesn't really care whatsoever about a particular card that he's got in front of me, be that physical land-based or online or whatever. He's making a purchase, he's not looking at terms and conditions to find out, you know, was this card created by a printing press in West Virginia that I particularly like? It's just too much detail. However, where trust does become a factor is at more of the public view or the herd mentality. So to answer the question, particularly around China, there will be in some quarters or some jurisdictions a view that things can't be trusted from China. Let's be less conflammatory about this and use a slightly different example. We'll all be particularly aware that LastPass as a password protection system has been hit several times by hackers and recently, and that's destroyed a fair bit of trust. Prior to that, where we didn't really differentiate necessarily between password checker and LastPass at the point of purchase. It was passwords, and it all seemed pretty good, and they were a big company, and away we went. One key mistake and one company. LastPass has several different password functionalities, but now the whole company's tarred with it. And we'll also find in certain jurisdictions, the whole password checker business is tarred with it, and people are going back to using paper, etc. So we talk a little bit about trying to put lots of individual processes in place, and they are all important. I'm not saying they aren't, but what I'm saying is that they're important really in affecting the herd mentality. So it's important in understanding what the bigger picture is that's being changed rather than one individual player. And so to answer your question about scratch cards from China, it's probably understanding that point of view is going to be a little bit more around considering that there are fake goods coming out of China. There is going to be substandard products coming out of China. So the view is going to be slightly different. And if I was a Chinese scratch card online or instant producer, I would be very much interested in my perception to the world, not necessarily one great bit of holographic cryptography that I'd added as a security measure, if that makes sense.
Perfectly.
agree with you.
There are some great scratch card manufacturers in China. We are WLASCS certified, so we just can't brand the whole country in one lens. Okay, so I think I must. We are running out of time, and apologies for that. So I would like to make a big, word of thanks to all the speakers and participants, and I look forward to seeing all of you again in our next webinar very soon. And videos will be published on the YouTube channel, SkillRock's YouTube channel. So look forward to seeing all of you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.